Miraculous has always been a show that I think relied heavily on the story and the characters to get people to give it a chance. I feel that even by the standards of the time that it released back in the mid-2010s, it always felt a little bit, I don't know how to phrase this, cheap maybe? It was clearly made on a bit of a budget, and that was all well and good. In those early days, they needed to make the money stretch as far as they could, and they weren't going to try to win any awards for their visuals. As the seasons went on, particularly in season 2 I think, but also parts of later seasons as well, the animation would have periods where it looked pretty damn decent overall, and then periods where it was absolutely disgustingly bad. As I said earlier, the franchise as a whole was carried by the story and characters at this point in time. The narrative element simply had to be good to counterbalance the somewhat scuffed animation, so people would get invested. And I think it worked well in that regard, and they did make a lot of improvements in the visual quality, specifically across seasons 4 and 5, to catch up where it needed to be. By those end stages, I did think the animation could at times look a little bit cheap, and I did wish it looked better, but I was also so invested at that point. I wasn't going to drop it over something so relatively minor. Plus, we didn't know what we were missing at that point either. Then season 5 ended and they released the Miraculous film, and my mind was somewhat blown about how good it looked. There was one scene in particular that just had me rethinking my attachment to the visuals of the show. That's when the gargoyles drag Cat Noir through the water, or something along those lines. I was instantly transported to whenever the show uses water effects, and the difference was truly night and day. It was absurd. From then on, in the back of my mind was the desire to have a bit of a visual upgrade for the show, and eventually my prayers were answered. The news came that season 6 was going to be a complete visual overhaul. I'm pretty sure their hands were forced in this respect, but regardless, I think it's clear that it was time. After all, the show was popular and successful enough that they formed a brand new company to handle its business and creative decisions. Miraculous Corp. You can't have your flagship show of your brand new company looking so Bush League. Plus, with a new saga about to kick off now that Gabe's dead and Lila's the new wielder of the Butterfly Miraculous, what better time would there be? It made all the sense in the world, or at least it did to me. When we got those first looks, even I was a touch skeptical, I think, but I was more positive than most. Because there really was a lot of salt in those days. People complaining about the character redesigns and how it doesn't have the same feel and the same charm. Then the show released, and I thought it looked incredible, but those same voices were there raging and ranting, but it felt like with every episode, the voices got more and more quiet. More and more people were coming to view this not as the destruction of a beloved nostalgic property, but simply what it is, a visual upgrade to try and make the show feel more modern and of a higher quality. By the time of the Great Hiatus, I think the majority of the fan base had come around to the new style and rather liked it overall. Which brings me to the other day. I was just doom scrolling and I stumbled across a post talking about Adrien's new design and how it was so bad. It got a lot of traction, and when I entered the comments, I just saw a whole heap of disdain for his new design and even a lot of disdain for the visual overhaul in general. Like I said, it was heavily focused on Adrien's appearance, but at the same time, there was definitely a lot of complaints being tossed around about pretty much everything. I guess a lot of the hate didn't die down because people were changing their minds, but because they were simply in hibernation or something? I don't know. That's really what I want to talk more about in depth today. Is the new style of animation genuinely good? Was it the right choice to move forward like this, or should things have been kept as is? Okay, so I guess we can start with the big boy himself, right? Adrien Agreste, because no matter what it is about the show, it's always going to come down to this guy right here. The majority of the complaints about everything are always about him. This is pretty much how it's always been. Adrien is always going to be a vocal point of fan discontent because he's one of the leads, and he is one that is extremely popular with a vocal subsection of fans. Now let's take a look at both our versions right here. The classic Adrien we know from seasons 1 through 5, and then the new version of the character. Okay, so objectively there is a visual difference here, and the new model is obviously higher quality. That being said, does the design look better? I think the OG saga maybe has sharper features, the second version is a little bit softer, and of course, there's a difference in the hairstyles too. Classic Adrien's more swept up, new Adrien's more flat. Kinda has early days Justin Bieber vibes if you ask me. Now, I think there has been a lot of chatter specifically that this new version of his character is too feminine, that he has soft features that make him look like a girl. And sometimes when I read these sort of comments, it's almost like I can hear the phantom voice of Andrew Tate whispering to me on the wind. In the end, I do recognize that it is a bit of a subjective sort of answer to this one. Do you think Adrien looks better or worse? And obviously, he looks worse to a lot of people. I personally don't think he looks bad by any means though. That's the thing here, isn't it? If you have it in your head that you don't like the way he looks, I don't think that anything I say is actually going to convince you. But at the same time, I don't know, I guess I just don't get why him looking slightly more soft is a bad thing. It's not like this guy was ever presented as some muscle-bound Chad. Plus, what's wrong with looking a bit feminine from an objective standpoint? Maybe it's just that he looks a little bit different from his initial appearance, and there's a massive level of attachment there that people need to deal with. Either way, I think the idea that he's been done dirty, as if this is an objectively bad look for a 15-year-old boy, is very silly. You can dislike it and that's fine, but to try to claim that it's genuine objective trash is just ridiculous catastrophizing in my opinion. I also think it's meant to serve a slight narrative purpose too, in that he very much looks like an innocent soft boy stereotype, which is what they're going for with his storyline and characterization. Meanwhile, from what I've seen, Felix perhaps has more of a sharper look, which probably makes more sense for his personality and to try to set the two apart a little bit more. Just a thought. Either way, I do feel that the hate for Adrien's redesign is massively overblown, and I reckon that over time it is going to fade away a little bit more. Or I could be completely wrong in that assumption, and we might still be having this discussion in another 10 years. After all, we're still talking about Miracle Queen now, aren't we? That's coming up to 6 years ago, and so I suppose we'll just have to find out together, right? But ultimately, that's just one character, one person. I don't think that's enough to say that the new style is bad. You have to take a broader look at things. So what about the likes of Marinette? Here's a character that is surely undisputedly an improvement on the original, right? I feel like it's pretty much her classic design, just with a few minor alterations here and there, and then brought to life in this new style, in higher definition. I don't see how anybody could possibly complain about this one, to tell you the truth. It retains the visuals of the original and doesn't reinvent a classic character, but it also puts a slightly fresh spin on things. We're doing well so far. Also, they upgraded her suit, which was a massive plus for me. They moved away from that more bland design, and more towards a similar design as her advanced suit she uses after getting a lucky charm. I honestly think there are a lot of these characters that fall into the category of mostly looking similar, but now in better quality, and with a few tinkerings to the design that are for the best. Zoe got rid of the beanie, and they added a bit more colour to her hair, and then revamped her costume to emphasise the yellow instead of the black, and now she looks better than ever before. Luca had a bit of a glow up. His new civilian look feels more true to the type of dude that desires to make stringed instruments as his job, and also grew up on a houseboat. Plus his hero costume is just so much better. Look at his old one. Ugh, it kinda sucked. Max has had a glow up in every single way. Dude's civilian persona looks so much better, his hero costume looks better, and they changed up how the glasses work too. In his hero costume, that big visor is so much better than the Men in Black sunglasses. Kagami, Nathaniel, Mark, Ivan, all of them got glow ups from their original design. It's been a pretty good hit rate so far. The combination of stylistic change and then the increasing quality of the animation is just so apparent here. It makes them look so good. In fairness though, is it all sunshine and roses? No. I do not like Milen's look at all. I think her civilian look in general just looks pretty terrible. Same with Rose. I get that they're trying for the opposites attract odd couple thing with Julika, but it just doesn't work for me. I don't like looking at her in her normal clothes. I also hate her hero costume too. No thank you. No thanks at all. Same for Milen. Hero costume is not to my tastes. Julika's fine, I guess. I'm just not huge on the shaved side of the head thing. But I've always been like this ever since I first saw people doing this when I was in high school. Otherwise, her design's great, and the brief glimpse at her hero costume was good too. Sabrina. Oh, Sabrina. They had a great design that felt just like the OG but enhanced at the start of Daddy Cop. Then they had her get that awful haircut at the end and I just don't like it. Looks like she cut it herself on a whim with her own scissors. At least her hero costume's pretty good though. I just can't believe they had a good design and threw it away. For shame. Then there's Nino, who's mostly fine, but I don't really like his hoodie. Kinda makes him look like he has a pot belly at times, which he's clearly not supposed to. No good. Then Alia, yeah, I don't know, the haircut has grown on me, but at the same time, I'm still not too sure about it. Then there's Kim. Did they de-chatify Kim? Dude looks a lot smaller, way less bulky, shorter almost? I don't know, I think the idea of his character being a towering and muscular jock who is also the dumbest person alive was so funny. It lessens the effect if he's much smaller. Ultimately, I'm not a fan of all the changes they made to the character models, but at the same time, I can 100% acknowledge that at the very least, the quality is so much better on every single one of them, and I wouldn't go back. I think I would just want the less good designs to be slightly altered to more closely resemble their original appearance in the old animation style. However, in the end, that's only one aspect of the show that's changed with this new style, isn't it? So much else was altered when they updated things that I think too often gets brushed off to the side by the discourse surrounding character designs. For starters, the detail. Seriously, I'm in the middle of a slow rewatch on the older seasons, and currently, I'm in the midst of season 2, and my god, a lot of the episodes are absolute classics, but it is so much clearer than ever before. The show was hard carried in those days by the story. I mean, look at the difference in the streetscapes. In the old version, it is so dead, it's so empty of life and colour. When there are big crowds of characters, you're 100% going to see the same character model again and again and again. The new way, however, makes Paris come to life. The textures are better, the environments are better, the colours and the lighting are better. Hell, take a look at the water too. It's just on another level at this point. Miraculous has taken a step into the future and left behind the dated visuals of the past. I also kind of think that this has allowed them to do things a bit differently in terms of their episodes, and it works so well. In particular, I'm thinking of the finale of El Toro de Piedra, where they're fighting the bulls and it's sunset and the light is just perfect and it creates this warm glow. Or in the same episode at the concert where Julika gets her big moment. I don't think those moments would quite hit the same if you imagine them in the old style. Same with the big Mark and Nathaniel moment at the end of The Ruler, with the sunset in the background when they confess to each other they're both superheroes. Like, come on! There are just countless examples of how lighting and colour are so much more richly detailed in this new style, and how they enhance the emotion of the story overall. It is honestly insane to see people arguing against this. I don't think this element of the upgrade is subjective either. I think this is actually the objective truth. Whether you think the characters look better or worse is up to you, but I think it's very clear which version looks better in terms of the overall world and which one enhances the story more. On top of that, the animation is now so much more fluid, I think. Characters move more naturally, and I think this lends itself to being able to animate more complex action sequences and fight scenes. That's something that I think this season's well and truly stepped up in, and that's the battles. Look across the episodes we've gotten so far, and I think the action has moved up a step. Really, every season did do their best in trying to make things feel more visually exciting, but in the end, I think the old animation style had clear limitations. I can't imagine some of these fights feeling nearly as cool if you transplant them into Season 5. I mean, perhaps you might disagree and think I'm talking out my ass, but it is what it is, isn't it? In the end, I think the new visual and animation style just looks so much better. It's nicer to look at and it ups my enjoyment. When I see people complaining about it, it kind of feels like people are complaining about progress and throwing out quotes like, "in my day," like there's some old prospector having a cry because mines use proper industrial equipment as opposed to a pickaxe and a stick of dynamite. It's like being annoyed that they added electronic windows to cars because you liked to wind them yourself. Thinking analog TV has better picture quality or that dial-up internet is superior to broadband. Just get serious, please. Of course, though, with all that being said, these have ultimately just been my opinions, and I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the miraculous animation revamp? Do you like it? Maybe you think it's the worst thing to ever happen to the show. I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.